I'm just setting up the YouTube feed. All right, Madam Chair, whenever you are ready.
I'm ready now to welcome you all to the February 2nd, 2022 virtual meeting of the Historic District Commission of Westminster. I'll call us to order here at 7 o'clock with a statement of authority. The Westminster Historic District Commission derives its authority from Chapter 164, Article 9A of the City Code, which is authorized by the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Article, Division 1, Single Jurisdiction, Planning and Zoning, Title 8, Historic Preservation. The qualifications of the Westminster Historic District Commission are on file at the City Administration Building at 45 West Main Street, and the file is open to the public. I just want to mention that I know that Aaron is not going to be able to join us this evening. He wrote and said that he had a different engagement. So I think we can begin with approval of the minutes. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to look at the January minutes?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as written.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, then the minutes are accepted. We thank the city very much for producing those minutes. Also, Zoom is that being kept on file, Andrew, just for my information?
The meeting summary?
No, the actual taping.
Yes, those are posted alongside the agenda and meeting packets and meeting summaries for all the boards and commissions.
Okay. All right, let's move to old business, the demolition permit of 228 East Main Street. Mr. Depo, is he here tonight?
It does not look like he's on the call. I'll pinch hit.
Thank you.
Let me let Mr. Knox in. So just to sort of go over the staff report, nothing has really changed a lot from last month. The only thing that was added on January 5th, we had a brief site visit with myself, Chair McMasters, and Commissioner Wegman. And also the property owner, Mr. Knox, and Tim Hatfield was there. From that meeting, Chair McMasters presented her historic structures report, provided that to staff, and that was subsequently sent to the commission yesterday. The recommendation would be that the planning staff recommends that any approval of demolition permit LC 21-2035 be subject to any new development of the property. Should one, make every effort to reuse the logs of the log cabin incorporated into the existing main building on site, and two, shall meet the requirements of the City of Westminster 2016 Development Design Preferences and Westminster Historic District Commission Design Guidelines, and incorporate elements of the standards for renovation Westminster. Madam Chair, if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer those. And also Mr. Knox, I believe, is on the phone call, and Mr. Knox representative, Mr. Camlin, is also on the Zoom call. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Terrific. All right, so one thing, Andrew, I'm not sure if I heard it right, but the walkthrough was the 14th of January.
Oh, yes.
The walkthrough was the 14th. And then during the walkthrough, we met with Mr. Knox, those folks who were interested. And at that time, I talked to him about my thoughts and concerns about the historic structures report. And I committed to him after that visit. We'd seen a few new things that we didn't know about with the report. So I wrote up a summary of those things that I thought needed to be added to the historic structures report. So mine was just review. The actual historic structures report was created by Dean Camlin and his associates. So I just had a 2-page review to add to that. So that was sent to the city on the 16th, I believe. And I believe that that review is also in our package tonight.
That is
Were there
correct.
any other review comments from our commissioners?
Yes, Madam Chair. May I speak? I read your report and I agree with especially the mitigating factors. I understand, it would be great if Mr. Knox could keep some of the original structure, but beyond that, the facade, if Mr. Knox, when he designs the new apartment building complex, if he could make it more sympathetic to the area and to the original structure, that would be wonderful. I know he doesn't have to, but I think that would be ideal. And so I like your comments there. And I think maybe, any way we could help him, that would be great.
So Andrew, do you need Christine's comments submitted to you in writing?
That wouldn't hurt, but also we can take that off the recording as well.
All right. Any other commissioners? Do you have any comments on? I'm concerned about, what I crafted, but also especially the main historic documentation. Any comments about what Camlin produced?
My main comment or query is just simply, I believe at the last meeting, I asked Dean, Mr. Camlin and his associate, just what their revised plans were. And that would be really helpful for tonight's discussion if we had a sense that what we are seeing here on the screen is what they fully intend to move forward to if given this permit, or if they have revised any of their plans per all these past months of discussion. And that will really inform any further commentary that I have this evening.
Thank you so much, Josh. And I did address that in my comments as well as the in-person meeting with Mr. Knox. Kevin, do you have any further things to add?
No, but thank you.
All right, so Mr. Knox and Mr. Camlin, have you had an opportunity to look at my review comments from the 16th? Dean, yeah, there you go.
Yes, Chris, actually, I think we just received those comments yesterday.
Oh.
So I did have a chance to look through them, and there would be a lot of additional information to add to my report, which would take some time. And I would hope that it would not delay the commission's recommendation to the council.
Is there a
I would
specific?
hope that I could add that information and submit it before the next commission meeting.
I was going to ask, is there some specific spot that we could help you with at all? I'm thinking of the Sanborn maps.
Yes, I haven't talked to the Historical Society about that, but it would be helpful to be able to access those maps.
So they're electronic? And heck, if I were still there, I could just send them to you electronically. It's not that hard to call them up and send them to you. It's going to take a little bit of study because you know those historic maps are highly detailed.
Right.
And you can see every edition over, the times of the maps, and you can see all the materials and all the measurements. And it's really a gold mine for this particular time period for this particular building. So I can understand a hesitancy, but of course you're a member and a business member of the Historical Society. So those maps will all be free to you. It's just a matter of us putting in those requests to you and getting it turned around as quickly as possible.
All right, I'll contact the Historical Society and see how those maps can be accessed.
Kathy Beatty's your best bet.
Good, thank you.
Because she and I looked them over about a month ago.
All right.
Is there anything else where we can help shave a little time off of your efforts?
Well, it would be nice to get the commission's vote on its recommendation to the council tonight, and not to have to wait for the revised historic structure report to be submitted.
All right, well, one thing Mr. Knox specifically asked me, and I don't see him on this call. Is he with you in your office, Dean?
No, he's on the call.
He's on the call, I just can't see him. Okay.
He doesn't have his video on.
Okay, good. Well, Mr. Knox was
I'm here now. I had a problem.
Good, I'm glad you're here, good. So I specifically made some things for you that I thought you could do yourself in order to help Dean.
I just seen that this week.
Did you see that? Okay, those are activities. Now, of course, Dean has to supervise because it's his imprimatur that goes on the report, but you specifically wanted to know what you could do to help to streamline the process. And I made a list of things that I thought you could be really helpful with and jump on to provide for Dean in order to have his report come back to us more swiftly. Was there anything?
I just seen that Monday.
Okay, was there anything there that you thought you couldn't do or you didn't understand? Probably the understanding part is the most important part.
I can't read half the thing, but I'm afraid to hit this X because then I lose you.
Okay, well, let me read off the list for you that I left for you.
Okay.
One is the photos. There are tons and tons of photos, and they don't have any kind of captioning, so you don't know, which floor they're from, or what window they're from, or what they're even trying to say. And
Okay.
there's lots in the submission. There was lots of duplicates, which really cloud up the whole thing. Each photo should be labeled, and I laid out exactly how each label should be. And I know you can do that because you know that house inside and out, Mr. Knox.
Right.
I also suggest that the newel posts be recorded and the balusters needed to be recorded. They're only obliquely seen in a couple pictures. I recommended that the photos of the remaining baseboard, doors, and window trim. They're very simple, but I think an capture of those finishing items is important. And I think you can do that for Mr. Camlin. Picking up the historic research at the Historical Society, if necessary, can be done by you, Mr. Knox, but I think it can be electronically sent. It'll have to be up to Kathy and Dean as to how he can receive that information.
Yeah, I can take care of that part.
Okay, and lastly, finding someone to identify the wood type for the structural logs, because I didn't see that in the report anywhere.
Would you know what that is?
I looked at the logs and I couldn't tell just from the distance I was at. I think that's something that needs to be investigated. I mean, it's a log structure. We should know what kind of wood it is. That seems like a real basic.
Look at that with you.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Knox and I talked on site a little bit about next steps. And I didn't bind the commission to anything. Let me tell you right off the bat, all I said was that, you know, how I saw things for further documentation and finalizing. And I felt that it was, you know, Mr. Camlin's an expert here. He did pretty good. We just have a few little I's to dot and T's to cross. So the one thing I thought would be really helpful is to make a list of mitigating factors. Dean, does that make any sense to you?
Tell me what you mean by that.
All right, so in a normal Section 106 process, when historic fabric's going to be lost, there's usually a list of all the efforts that were put into saving that historic fabric. And I could see some efforts right now that Mr. Knox said he was agreeable to on the 14th that might help mitigate some of the loss of this historic fabric. And one was that maybe the main facade could be made a little plainer without balconies, just a brick facade. Maybe at the very top, the cornice work could replicate the cornice work in the back with the Corbel bricks. But to keep it plain and simple the way it's been for the last, you know, I don't know how many years, 50, 70 years.
Yes, Mr. Knox and I have talked about that, and actually, Andrew, if you could bring up the couple of floor plans.
All right, well, Dean, before we move on to planning, can we get through this mitigating list for understanding? And then we can get into what your proposal might be?
Sure.
Would that be okay? I just want to kind of stay on this track. So secondly, the main facade could maintain the location, size of the doors and windows, subject to, of course, to any ADA or other building code requirements. But Mr. Knox seemed amenable to keeping that same size and scope to maintain that historic setting and feel. The structure would remain within the general size and scope of the current historic structure, at least in concert with the existing community. That is no ballooning back, you know, additions or anything like that. And that lastly, Mr. Knox said he was amenable to looking at the main core logs to see if they could somehow be encased and preserved in situ, if possible. And that would be a great mitigating factor. If we could just say 20% of that building was encased and preserved, and you know, we could put a little brass plaque up that says this is the location of the original log structure. Then I talked with Mr. Knox a little bit about tax credits that are available out there, and I listed some links that he could look for, because it's really clear that the state feels that there is some sort of rehabilitation ability out there. And I would think that once they put in a letter that rehabilitation is possible, then certainly if we do something that's within their purview, they would support it with tax credits. Is there anything in this 2 pages that has been unclear, Dean or Mr. Knox?
Well, are we just pretty much saying to keep the log structure? Is that what we're kind of, the goal is, pretty much?
I would like to see that if possible. And I think that's what we talked about on the 14th, of course, if possible. To me, that would be the best thing we could possibly do, is keep those wooden members there. I want to say embers all the time. That sounds like a fire. The rest of the structure can be wiped, but if we can keep those logs intact, encased, that would be terrific.
Okay, so if you look at the drawing that Dean provided, it shows the logs still there on his on one of these.
Go to the first
it shows
floor
where the logs
plan.
are.
All right, so on this, this is a revised floor plan, and you see in the lower left corner of the plan, the gray lines, that's the original log structure. So we're incorporating that within the design of the new apartments.
That's
both on the first
fantastic.
floor and also on the second floor.
That's fantastic.
Now, there is a problem in that the original log structure of the floor to floor height really isn't enough for contemporary use. The ceilings would be too low. There wouldn't be enough room for ductwork and that sort of thing. So if you look at the second floor plan, Andrew, thank you. That log structure is still there, but the floor is at a different height, and therefore the window openings are too low. So what I had to do was to insert some opaque panels below the new windows to take up the original window openings that are in the log structure and make adjustments that way.
Wow, that's so creative.
Also
good.
on this plan, you'll see that there is no front porch on the building anymore. Since
Okay.
we're keeping the log structure where it is, it's right on the edge of the sidewalk. We did put porches on the rear of the building,
Mhm.
and I also somewhat widened the building toward the west, so that the apartments on the right-hand side would match the width of the apartments on the left-hand side, which are controlled by the size of the log structure.
Got it. Got it.
So,
Well, Dean,
so
this
the
is
new
so
building, the new building footprint is bigger than the existing original building footprint.
Yeah, that's okay though. I mean, it adaptively reuses the core of the building, and I'm amazed. Do you have a front facade view for us?
I've done that, but we don't have it available. Sorry.
It's okay.
Mr. Camlett, I have a question. The summer kitchen or slave quarters, whatever that brick structure is in the back, is that going to be kept? Because my understanding is that is in decent shape. Are you going to keep that, or are you going to tear that down?
No, it will be kept. And
That's great.
and I've talked with Mr. Knox about removing the wood furring strips that had been applied to the brick, so that the original brick can be left exposed.
Yeah, Dean, it may need some stabilization back there because there's some open areas of the building. It might need to be, some windows or something put in to keep the water from coming inside.
Yeah,
But
and
I'll
I
leave
haven't
this-
been inside that building, so I don't know what kind of stability there might be, necessary on the inside.
Well, it looks pretty good. It's just, it's open to the elements, and that's just a bad thing all around. But that would be Mr. Knox's decision because it's not really part of this demolition permit request.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that building alone, the way it is right now.
Oh,
so do our other commissioners have any questions of Mr. Camlin and Mr. Knox? Hearing none, I would suggest maybe we have a motion that's sort of two parts. One, that we accept this really creative plan for saving the core of this log house in the new design, and accept the other changes for the rest of the property as presented tonight, trusting that we'll get some more finalized drafts as they go along. and trusting that we get a revised historic structures report. What do our other commissioners think about that kind of a motion?
I would just like to hear from Dean if he's amendable to that proposed further documentation with that kind of proposal.
Yes, I agree that labeling the pictures and showing where they were taken and adding some captions, getting some measurements of some of the woodwork inside will flesh out the report.
Great. Well, given the willingness then of the applicant to take that course of action, I'd be happy to motion to the chairwoman's excellent suggestion that we move ahead with those two courses of action. One, that the applicants document the things that are outlined in this excellent document, and two, that we move forward with approving the request.
Do we have a second to Josh's motion?
If I may, Madam Chair,
Yes.
just a point of clarification, the Historic District Commission is providing a recommendation to the Director of Planning.
Correct. Thank you, Andrew. And Josh, before we go to a second, will you amend?
So noted, amended, agreed.
Second,
Second from Kevin. Is there any further discussion? And Andrew, do you think you can make something reasonable out of this motion for us as a conditional approval or a conditional recommendation for approval?
Just so I am clear, you are going to accept, you made a motion to accept the revised historic structures report. And
With amendments to it, right? It's going to be improved.
yes, that is correct. And then accepting that with amendments, my thought process is I'm assuming this would not come back to the Historic District Commission, because I guess right now we're just looking for your recommendation to the Director of Planning for what you as a board want to do, or your thoughts on this proposal. So I heard that an updated report, but that means it would come back before the commission. But I'm just trying to think here and sorry, I'm thinking out loud. I'm just trying to think how would this be put into a recommendation to the planning director?
So I would suggest that indeed the documentation come back for final acceptance by the city through the Historic District Commission. But on the firm faith of moving ahead for the Director of Planning, that the new design presented tonight with the logs incorporated show enough good faith that we believe our concerns will be addressed.
Okay.
Conditional. But we're working together in good faith. Also, I think this allows us a path of swiftness, if there's such a thing in historic preservation.
And with that, I believe I can make, well, actually, I hate to do this, but to get it on the record at the meeting, instead of, because I hate to go, I don't want to go back and create this motion that we don't have presented during the hearing at this time. So would it be safe to say the Historic District Commission approves of the new design to move forward, that the sorry, hold on, the HDC approves of the, because this is for the demolition permits, or sorry, archiving report. The Historic District Commission approves of the archiving report and the new design.
Actually, they're two separate things, Andrew. The archiving report needs a lot of work. But we know that that work will be done by Mr. Camlin. He and Mr. Knox have pledged tonight that they'll address it. So what we're doing tonight is recommending that the planning director move ahead with the demolition permit in line with this new design presented tonight to encapsulate the log cabin portion. And that as a second item of business, we do expect that historic structures documentation to be revised.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Sure. Does that sound about right for the rest of the commission?
Yes, but I believe we still have to vote on it.
Yes, we do. So we got a motion, a second, and a clarification from our city staff. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays indicate by saying nay. No nays. Boy, I am so glad we have a path forward on this tonight. What a nice thing to put to bed. Whew. All
Well, I
right.
have a question before we go on this.
Yes, sir.
So about the tax credits, you mentioned out there when we had the meeting that before I do any demo, I would have to provide, I guess, 2 quotes maybe to get the tax credits.
So Mr. Camlin can help you with tax credits. He's intimately involved with them. But we do offer tax credits through the city. There are some through the state and there are some through the feds. Before work is done, that tax credit has to be submitted and approved.
Do I prove it to you guys? That's what I'm wondering.
You can come to us. As a matter of fact, you can stay for the next order of business and see how another property is doing it because it is public knowledge. It's no closed meeting involved.
I guess
You
the
can
second
literally-
question, comes because I was asking about 2 quotes because I plan on doing demolition myself for most of it.
That may have some issues, but we can work through those, I'm pretty sure, on a more technical level. Working with Mr. Gray, and certainly Mr. Camlin can advise you.
Yeah. We
We usually like to get 2 quotes so that we don't get someone who's doing their own work kind of over marking up the costs. So,
That's what I was asking, yeah.
yeah, we need to make sure that nobody's coming in and claiming it's an $8 million project that they're doing themselves.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm sure Mr. Gray will take some time and talk you through how that whole process works. But you can see in the next application what someone's proposing to do on another property in Main Street.
Okay.
And if you need any other help, I'm always available for advice.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Woohoo. All right. Are we ready to move to new business? So tonight's new business is the pre-construction application for historic rehabilitation property credits for TC 22-1. Andrew, would you like to take it away?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you very much. RRD Properties LLC, who is the property owner of 229 East Main Street, submitted a pre-construction application for historic rehabilitation property tax credit. The property is considered an eligible property since the property is located within the Westminster Historic National Register District. The property is listed in the Maryland Inventory of Historic Properties as CARR 132A, the John Bernstein House, and the property is described in the Building of Westminster, Maryland by Christopher Weeks on page 180. These are all attachments in the packet with the staff report. On January 5th, 2022, the commission voted to approve a facade improvement grant program application in the amount of $10,500. with the condition that the applicant appropriately match the existing mortar or use type O mortar that is hand raked. Subsequently, on January 10th, 2022, the applicant provided the city with a revised Build Good Inc. estimate for $28,950. That included the following note: amend conditions as of January 10th, 2022. Careful removal of all damaged bricks by hand, removed all cracked existing mortar by hand, repoint all mortar with type O area-specific mortar, replacement of area-specific kiln-dried sandstone bricks by hand, hand raking method. Finally, for the recommendation, staff recommends the commission review and review the provided application and attachments to determine whether, one, the proposed work as outlined above qualifies as eligible work under section 143 5B2, or sorry, 5B. Number two, the estimated project cost of $28,950 is accurate and acceptable. Three, the property is an eligible property. And four, to approve and grant the certificate of eligibility for historic tax credit in the amount of up to $2,895, consistent with City Code Section 143 5B, A, B, and C. Madam Chair, I'm here to answer any questions. Also, the applicant is also here if you have any questions for her. And I will turn it over to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Usually the city has a recommendation to approve. Do you have that for this product?
For this, we do. In my recommendation, we have as 4 to approve the grant at the certificate of eligibility for historic tax credit in the amount of up to $2,895, consistent with City Code Section 143 5B, A, B, and C.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yep.
So if Grace looks familiar, she's been here with us before last month. And if she's not careful, she's going to get put on the commission. Grace, do you have anything you'd like to say about this project?
I just hope that this estimate has the specifications that you are looking for. And I know that the Bill Good team is eager to start work as soon as we know, the time frame, because I do know there's a deadline. And I have my notebook ready if there's anything else that would need to be changed. Mike Shawless seems very familiar with this type of work, and I'm also excited to hear what you have to say about any more like era specific brick and mortar techniques.
Well, I have to say, Grace, this all looks great to me. I have no concerns or no comments. It looks just like what we recommended previously for this building. And I have no real questions for you other than, as soon as you get this signature on the certificate, you have 2 years. So it's not really that tight a time period. It's not like the Facade program where they have a very small window. You have 2 years for this work.
Is that with the tax credit work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that's kind of good because it gives you time to pull together your receipts and your packaging to get the credit. Once you get approval, then the next step is to do the work. Then you have to come back to us with proof that you did the work the way you said you were going to. So it takes a little time.
Mm-hmm.
Do any of our commissioners have any questions for Grace? Hearing none, I would hope that someone make a great motion to accept this project because it looks great to me. Anyone make a motion to accept this one?
I will make a motion to accept Grace. Let me find her name. Last name. This
Ms. Cloutier? Is that it?
Yes.
Close, anyway.
Grace Claudier, or pretty name. Application for a tax credit. I'm trying to. That the Historic District Commission approved your application.
Do we have a second to this approval? Oh, Andrew's got his hand up. What's up, Andrew?
May I just add that to just make the recommendation that if the commission so wishes, just for a point of clarification, that the proposed work qualifies as eligible work. The estimated cost of $28,950 is accurate and acceptable. The property is an eligible property, and to grant the historic tax credit of up to $2,895, consistent with the city code.
Thank you, Andrew. We'll make that as part of that motion to accept. Christine, do you agree?
Yes.
We have a second on all that?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Josh. Any discussion? Grace, you really learned quickly. What a perfect application. That's all I can say before we take the vote.
Well, you
What a
gave
great-
me good instructions, so when I had to call Build Good and explain the modifications, he understood a lot more than I did, but I'm also curious, so if this is eligible for the tax credit, where does that place us on the facade? Because I'm still really new to this whole process.
So that was also an eligible request as well.
Okay.
And you can take the same work to the state and to the feds if you have the time to spare. Because the paperwork you did for us is minimal. The state paperwork's a little bit more. And you go through the SHPO's office for the federal credit as well. But
Okay.
everything you stipulated for me is honestly the highest requirements that the feds or the state will ask. You've already met their threshold for expertise and high requirements, and I cannot imagine them saying no. We all try to have the very same level of requirements. So I strongly recommend you go for that state tax credit for 20% and the federal tax credit for 20%. This is a commercial building, correct?
Yes.
So you'll be eligible for another 40% on this work.
That would be fantastic.
It would be. You would be almost 100% covered, although nothing ever is. But I would love to make you my poster child for downtown Main Street improvements. It would be great.
Great.
All right.
And
If
then-
there's we could,
Oh, I'm
Pardon?
sorry. What is the time frame for the facade? Because I understand the tax credit is the 2-year time frame, and then I just want to make sure I get any pressing dates listed.
Andrew, you need to respond to that. I'm not as familiar with the facade program.
Facade program, and Grace, we can talk about this tomorrow if you'd like. So I can have all the pertinent information in front of me.
Okay.
And then I can talk to you about moving forward with the historic tax credit application.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, all in favor? Indicate by saying aye. Did we vote yet? I don't think we did. We're still doing questions. All right, if there's anyone who does not approve of this application, please let me know. You see no nays. And see no Kevin at all. He must have fallen off the call. All right, so this application is therefore approved by HCD. And we look forward to working with you further, Grace. And
Thank
Andrew, when the paperwork's ready, I'll sign off on it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This is working out to be a terrific night. All right, that's our new business for this evening. We usually go around the table and ask the Historic District Commissioners and the public if they have any comments. I personally especially like to hear if there's anything new from the commissioners, any other organizations they've been working with that might be able to help inform our preservation efforts here in town. And I'll start with Christine. Do you have anything to report?
Nothing to report, Madam Chair. It just, you're absolutely right. It's been a really good night. A good night for folks and for downtown Westminster, so.
Josh, do you have anything to report?
Not this evening. Thank you.
So I do actually have something kind of exciting to report from the heart of the Civil War Heritage area. We've been talking quite a bit of Washington County, Frederick County, and Carroll County about the difficulties with demolition. And we're going to get a regional group together because it seems like nobody in that 3-county group has really good, tight demo permits that allow us to have reasonable, thoughtful work that isn't a big surprise to our applicants. And I think as a region, we're going to work harder at coming up with good ordinances and city recommendations of best practices. And we're looking for partners who might want to work on a task group that would go through these 3 counties. I haven't asked Andrea yet. I was hoping she'd be on the call, but she might be busy right now. I know she's got a kid coming along any minute. I was also going to ask Christine if she might be interested in serving on the heart of the Civil War Heritage area in helping revise regional demo permit approaches.
Why don't we, well, I'm happy to discuss that with you. Yes.
Terrific. And Josh, do you have any interest?
Sorry, hunting for the mute button. Unfortunately, I am maxed out at the moment with my other nonprofit engagement. Thank you, though.
Sure. Well, I just always like to have Carroll County voices, especially since this is not a unique problem to Carroll County. Hagerstown has got 2 historic structures that are may not see as happy an outcome as we have tonight. So it's becoming something with the new economy that's churning along so intensively that we have to really look at a regional way of handling things. So that's my comments for this evening. Does the public have anything they wish to comment on tonight? Well, Mr. Knox, I especially want to thank you for coming this evening and bearing with us and being creative and working so hard with us. I want to thank you. And I want to thank you, Grace, for being here this evening and also being clearly diligent and working hard with our commission. And all of our commissioners are so hardworking. I want to thank you. And you too, Andrew, you've been a champ tonight. I appreciate it very much. And we'll call ourselves to adjournment then. I thank you all.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
You bet. Good night.
Good night.